In this video, I'm going to go over how to set up an iPad with switch access to be able to advance a Google slideshow through all the slides using a single switch. So the first thing I'm going to mention is that I'm using a Tapio iPad adapter with a switch plugged into it. And I'll include information on what these products look like. I've got a Jelly Bean switch. It's one of the more common switches you may see. And the Tapio wired connection does work really well with the iPad. So Bluetooth switches are also an option if you use a Bluetooth switch interface to plug in your switches into. In this case, I'm just going to go with the wired connection. It's kind of a nice, easy setup with this. So first thing to do is to go into our settings here. And we want to first of all go into accessibility here. And then we're going to scroll down to switch control here. And the first step is to add this new switch to the iPad. The iPad has to know what to identify. It needs to identify this switch that we're going to use so that when it's pressed, it can do something with it. So we're going to go to switches, and we're going to add a new switch. So we're going to tap on add new switch. It's going to be an external switch. And it says activate your external switch. So we're going to plug in the Tapio adapter with the Jelly Bean switch plugged into it. And now we're going to press on the switch button to send a signal to the iPad. Okay. And we're going to give this switch a name. We want to give it a name that's specific to the setup, because sometimes we might use different switches for different purposes, and we want to be specific. So this is going to be the Tapio adapter. That way I know I'm not using the Bluetooth switch. And we're going to use a Jelly Bean with it. So, Jelly Bean. Okay, then we're going to save that. Okay, and then now we want to tell the iPad what we want the switch to do when it's pressed. In this case, we just want to select the item. We want that switch to select the item. And just to note, there is an option to set up a long press. We're going to keep it simple today and just do the simple select item with just the press of the button. Now we're going to go out to switches. And the next step is to set up a recipe that will tell the iPad what to do specifically when this switch is pressed. So we're going to go into recipes here. Oops. And we're going to create a new recipe right here. We're going to give the recipe a name. And this should be specific to the purpose, to the action that's being done, so we can remember what each thing does. So we're going to use this for Google Slides to advance the slides. Google Slides. And then we'll say advance slide. And then we're going to assign a switch for that purpose. If I had multiple switches that were set up, I would have more here to choose from. And we're going to use the one that we set up just now, the Tapio Jelly Bean. And this is important. Now, this is the action that will happen when I press the switch in Google Slides. So in Google Slides, to advance the next slide, you can use the right to left swipe like you do in most book apps. You can also just tap on the right hand side or tap on the left hand side to go forward or backward. But since these ones are already pre-programmed gestures into the recipes, we're just going to use what's already available. There is an option to make a custom gesture if what you needed wasn't here. And that's pretty cool. I'll cover that another time. But for right now, we're going to use the built-in gesture of swipe right to left. So we're going to tap on that. And we're going to go out, back to new recipe. And then we're going to go out once more to recipes. The last step is to tell the device which recipe to launch when we turn on switch control. If you want to keep it so that it's going to scan and have individuals use the switch to select in scanning mode, you'd want to keep it at none. We don't want to use a recipe because that will kind of define what we can do. But for this very specific purpose, we're going to launch the recipe of Google Slides, Advanced Slides. All right, we should be ready to go. So now we're going to go to a Google Slideshow. I've got one here ready to go. I'm in the presentation mode already, so we'd want to make sure that we've selected the little arrow at the top, the play button for the presentation mode. We're going to present on this device. Okay, so here's the beginning. We're going to turn on our recipe. We're going to triple click on the home button, and then we're going to tap switch control right here. And then it says, your switches are now configured to run the recipe Google Slides Advanced Slide. Let's test it out. I'm going to tap on the button. It's working. And there you go. It's working just right, the way I wanted it.